Alright, here's what we're painting today on this video. Fall. I love fall. My favorite season to paint. And I just loved painting this. I can't wait to paint it with you. This is a plaque and it comes with a stand. It comes with 4 panels and a stand. So I think you're going to love it. New surface on my website. So I can't wait to paint this with you guys. Let's get started. Alright, so to get the surface ready, multi-purpose sealer, 1 to 2 coats on here. Lightly sand after each coat. You can use a brown paper bag to do that. Apply 1 or 2 coats. I just did 1 of light buttermilk with a sponge or a 2-inch foam roller, dampened sponge. And now we're going to add some color to the background. So I've got on my plate antique gold, persimmon, and Georgia clay. So I'm going to see if those colors work for me. The light buttermilk, I might put a little bit of it out to lighten that yellow just a little bit so that it doesn't quite get darker than what I want. So I'm just using a stippling sponge. And they're available on my website if you are interested in them. And I'm just going to start here at the top and start putting some of this yellow up here, a little bit of the light buttermilk, and I just want to make a nice stippled background. And I've got some orange on my sponge, but that's okay. And we're just gonna gradually, now I've just got antique gold, I've just picked up that color by itself. And I'm going to very gently blend it with that lighter color. Bring it down a little bit more. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that persimmon with it. So I've got both on my sponge. We're just stippling it on here. And very gently blend where the two meet. And how you do that is by not giving as much pressure onto the sponge. So you're not laying down a bunch of paint, you're just barely tapping where you left the paint off. And I'm going to go to a clean edge so I don't keep laying down paint there. And you just put that paint in there. So now I just want some persimmon right here. Much darker through here. We're not going to see a whole lot of this once we get done. And then I'm going to go into my Georgia clay and put that down here at the bottom. So we've got from light to dark. Some nice pretty fall colors going on here. Now I'm just going to very softly tap and blend. I'm going to flip over to this side so I don't lay down more orange up here where I don't want it, and just continue to gently blend. Now if you see that your paint is lifting, then it's starting to dry. You need to just get out of it so that you don't lift up any of the paint that you don't want. And we've got a fun little model background for some fall colors. And so now we're going to let this dry and transfer on our pattern lines. Now you can use, you know, just all yellows, you can use just all oranges, you can go with some purples and greens, you know, just anything that's going to be a fall looking color. But these are some of my favorite colors so that work well together, so I'm very pleased with the look of that. So let's get it dry. Alright, so I've got my base coat on for my leaf here. I put 2 coats of Payne's Gray after I transferred on the design, and then transfer on my letters and just some basic beginning lines here of the candle, the leaf, and the grapes. Or those may not be grapes, they may be some kind of berry. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about this surface. This is a plaque that comes with a stand so that you can put it anywhere in your home that you like. And the stand you can use with many other plaques that you have. I like these plaques, they're reversible. I'm going to be painting something on this side of it. But I just painted my base black. You can paint it white, you can paint it to look like metal, you can paint it to look just like wood, whatever appeals to you. But I have just painted mine black. Comes with 4 of these inserts and this little stand that they can stand up in. And this is going to be available on my website. It's not there yet, but I am working on it. It should be there by the time that you watch this video. Okay, so we're going to start by undercoating or basing in our candle. We're going to base it in with the light buttermilk that we used in the background here. And we'll just paint a couple of coats on it. So we're going over black, so it will definitely take a couple of coats on here. Just your simple base coating. Use whatever brush that you like. And a little bit of water in your paint to thin it. Make sure we cover up all that black on that outside edge there. And should go pretty quickly. It's not an overly huge design here. And I don't generally like to stay and do my base coating on camera. So I will definitely go off camera to apply a second coat, and I'm just going to paint right over my flame there. Alright, and then our leaf, we're going to base it in with, let me see, I want it to be a bright leaf when we're done, so I've got a couple of colors chosen here. I think I will try and base it in with this color. This is Thicket. And we'll see if I like this color. If not, I will come back and change it. But again, it's just simple base coating in with whatever brush appeals to you. So I'm going to go off camera and do that and get my second coat on. I have not decided on my berries yet because I'm having some other twigs and berry stuff coming off. So I might make those grapes. I'm not 100% sure yet. So let me see if I'm going to like this color. It's a very kind of dark color. And I want to put some vibrant colors on top, so I think I will go with this other color I picked out, which is leaf green. It's a very bright color. Maybe the two of those mixed together would be a good color. Now let's just do equal mixes of Thicket and leaf green. Come and draw that grape or whatever that's going to be back in. Alright, so there is our first coat on our leaf there. It's almost the same shape as what our leaf is out here. Not quite, but pretty close. Okay, second coat's coming up, and I will make a decision on what those are. Okay, I decided to go ahead and make those grapes, and I base coated them in with Wild Orchid, 2 coats. Let me zoom in here now. We're going to work on the candle, and we're going to be doing some layering of colors on this, some glazing and stuff. But I want to start stippling on it, and I'm going to use this 1/4 inch Deerfoot. It's an Americana brush. Whatever type of stiff little brush you've got is what you can use. Alright, so I picked up both colors of paint of, what do I got here? Persimmon and Moon Yellow onto my brush, and we're going to see how this is going to stipple on here. We don't need to cover the whole thing. We're just starting to add some color in here. Some texture on the candle itself. And like I said, we're going to be adding some glazes in here, so don't be looking at it right now going, oh my gosh, because oh my gosh is exactly right. Alright, I'm going to pick up just a little bit more Moon Yellow and begin kind of tapping that in there. Don't worry about getting all the way up to your edges. We're going to be floating those and creating more roundness and stuff. We just want to get this first layer of tapping some color in there. I know, it looks just awful. The ugly stages are the hardest stages for us to get through mentally. Because it's like, we just want to make it pretty, like right now. I don't want to have to go through that ugly stage. But it's got to happen. It has to happen. So, just take your time. Don't get wild and crazy. Don't have water in your brush. This is a dry brush. We're just tapping this in here and creating some depth. Well, it will help us create depth when we add the other colors on top of it. So I probably won't be stippling again, at least maybe not for quite a while. So I went ahead and washed my brush out, and that's going to give it time to get dry if I do need to use it later. I don't think I'm going to, but we'll see. Okay, I'm loading up my brush. I've got a pretty damp brush, and I'm loading it up with some Cad Yellow and a little bit of Moon Yellow, and just blending them. It's pretty wet paint there, and we're going to begin putting this kind of more in the center of our candle, and start creating our little well area back here with this. It's mostly Cad Yellow. I have just a little bit of the Moon Yellow in there to make the Cad Yellow a little bit more opaque. Okay, we'll be adding more to that, so don't worry. I'm going to wipe my brush off and go into some, I think I'm going to pull some Tangelo orange out here, because I want my oranges to be, oh goodness, I can't get it open. I'm going to mix the Cad Yellow and Tangelo together. And just create this very kind of palish, yellowish orange. Lots of water. I'm going to go along the outer edges here. Add a little bit more orange into that. I want that to be a little more orangey out here. And along the bottom here. Okay, by the time I got over there, I was running out of paint, which is perfect. I'm going to pick up a little bit more of the Tangelo orange, just right on that dirty brush. And we're going to go along the outside edge out here. Try and stay off my background there, but it's a solid color, so if I have to, I can come touch it up. Okay, we'll take it right about to there. My pencil line, really, if you're transferring your lines, try not to make your pencil lines very dark, because that is not going to be good. And let's make it a little bit darker out here. I just picked up more Tangelo orange. I want to bring this over, so I'm just going to walk it over. And then go a little bit along the bottom down here. I want to keep this side lighter, so I'm going to wash my brush out because I want to load just cad yellow in it now. Okay, I washed my brush. Now I'm going to load with just cadmium yellow into a very wet brush, lots of water. So I'm making this a very sheer color. And we're going to paint along this edge here and across here. And I really want to darken my orange, so I think I will get some, maybe I'll get that Georgia clay that we use down here on the very bottom. This will slightly darken our orange that we have there. I might mix it with some of that persimmon just so it tones it down a little bit. And then a little bit along the back. This is the darker side of the candle, so we want to keep all the darker over there. Okay, I need to get some white out here. And I'm going to mix the white with the cad yellow. I want to get a little bit lighter edge. I just, equal amounts, I just dipped into one, then dipped into the other one, and blended them right on my brush. I need this edge to be really light here. Put a little bit of a highlight down the center, I think. More cat yellow here for our well. It can be more faded out on that side. Just a little bit. Alright, let's do along this top edge here. Might get that off my background there. Touch more white here in my mix. This is just that cad yellow and white. Oops. Don't want that light color quite over that far. And I don't think I want that highlight down the center to be quite that wide. So damp brush, just remove it. The paint hasn't cured, so we're good. Paint too far over on my brush. Clean it out, reload it. That's the white and cad yellow mix. A little bit more white in it. Oh, my ceiling fan sounds like it's about to fall out of the ceiling back there. Okay, I'm going to take that. Well, I think I'm actually going to take the Tangelo orange by itself here. And come along this front edge. I don't like that light on there. Need it to be a little bit more. I'll put a little bit of orange here. I probably should go down to a smaller brush. Okay, right here, well, I need a little bit more yellow on the front before I create a bright highlight there. So I'm going to get some water in my brush and some cad yellow. Some pretty watery mix here. And come down the front. I don't want it quite that bright. And I need to blend those out there. So I'm going to take the orange and the yellow on my brush and try and... The persimmon is what I've got. A little bit of cad yellow. And try and blend that so there's not such a hard gradient of color there. So you'll just kind of keep tweaking with these colors until you kind of find a balance that you really, really like. That was just a touch of the Georgia clay, darkening that edge a little bit. Okay, let's create a little bit of reflection in here. This, I'm going to take some cad yellow and some white. I think I'll have more white than cad yellow this time. And I want to create a highlight right here. Oops. I think I definitely need more white. Get those light colors out of my brush. Putting them everywhere I don't want to. I'm going to pick up a little bit of Tangelo orange and just kind of skim it around this front edge of that well. Kind of smooth it out. Now let's get just white. And I probably should definitely go to a smaller brush here. And white we're going to put right here. Flip our brush over and apply some on this side right next to where we just put that. And we can put a little bit of reflective stuff going on right here. A little bit. Let's add a touch to the side. This is just white, straight white. And then I'm going to put a little bit kind of back through here. Give a little highlight kind of in that well area. And this needs to be a little bit brighter. I think that looks pretty good for our candle for now. I'm going to just darken this edge down here a little bit. So all that stippling that we put on there, so we covered up a lot of it, that ugly stippling, but look how it makes that candle look textury and like it's got multiple colors deep down inside of it. I just love that. Okay. Okay, I'm going to draw my, I have to do it with a darker pencil here, my wick in here, and then my flame is coming all the way down here. Okay, so we're going to paint our wick in with the Payne's Gray. I want you to use a detail liner or a very small round brush. I've got a 1 round here. And I want it a little bit thicker on the very tip right here. And I think while I have this paint on my palette, I am going to touch up down here where I got a little bit messy. Straighten up my edge. And any place while you have this Payne's Gray out, give that time to dry so that we can paint our flame in. Just touch up with this color. Stuff is going in there, so it'll cover up anything that we've maybe done that we didn't like there. Oops. Burr on my brush there. Goober or something. Fuzzy wuzzies. Alright, so now our flame here, let me get some fresh cad yellow out. Our flame is going to be cad yellow and Snow White. And I think I'm actually going to thicken my wick here. I want it to be a nice fat little wick. And to come all the way down to that line that I made right there. We have a substantial wick in there, and that's how we want it to be. Alright, let's add our flame on here. So I'm taking a small round brush, and I'm getting some cad yellow. I've got a tiny bit of water in my brush, not very much, because I don't want this going crazy. And we're going to tap this cad yellow right here at the very base. I'm going to wipe off and go into some Snow White, and we're just going to finish out our flame with this white. And I'm going to come back and repeat because I've got yellow in my brush still, so it's blending in with that that yellow that I had on there. So we need to let that kind of dry, and then we're going to come back and brighten that up, and it's going to look so awesome. I'm going to erase my lines because I didn't paint over them. That's what you want to try to do when you're making your flame. Try not to paint over your lines so we can erase them and get that more realistic flame going when we get done here. Okay, that's dry. I've erased my lines. So now I'm going to float some cad yellow. So I've just loaded a small brush. I'm going to float this down here. And I want that to get dry. And then I'm going to add some white in here. Bring some of that down a little bit. Wash my brush out. And make sure that's dry. And then we're going to go with some straight white. In here. And make this really bright. All the way up to the tip here. And I'm going to bring it down. White off. I'm going to paint that Payne's Gray back in right there. I'm going to take a little bit. I think I've got some cad red on my palette. I'm going to take a tiny, teeny little bit of cad red. I could probably use that Georgia clay as well. This is going to be such a small amount. I want it right there at that very base of that. Right here. Okay, I'm going to pick up my cad yellow while that is wet and just kind of tap over that. Wipe my brush off and just kind of blend it. We still want to see some of that actually. Get some cad yellow. Working into my brush with some water here. If I can. My paint's drying up. Can't get it to flow. I want this to be brighter back through here. Still need that little bit of a highlight going through there. Okay, I'm going to see if I can do this. I don't know if I can do it with a dark background or not, but I want to put the softest little glow off of this flame. So I've got a dry, scruffy type brush. This is a Betty Bird number 8 blender. It's dry. I've put some persimmon on it. Not really sure if that's the color I want to use, but I might pick up some Tangelo orange and work that into the brush and then wipe off the wet paint. We want to have just a little bit of paint in this brush when we do this. I don't even know if it'll work on this. I want to get a little bit of a glow on the outside of this. A little bit of a yellow. Picked up some cad yellow, worked it in there too. I don't think I can get that glow that I want to have there, but I gotta get that. I should probably do that before I put my white in here, because this flame needs to be white. So I'm gonna have to go over the white a couple times to get it back to being super bright. Might just float some of that cad yellow and Tangelo out here. Alright, I'm going to keep adding white to this flame until it is back to being white. I don't want to lose that little bit of yellow that I have down in there. Going to keep the flame looking like it's nice and hot, because it, you know, it's such a white flame, it's going to be burning hot. Okay, let me wide angle out. That might give you a little bit better perspective. So that looks pretty good. I think I like the way that looks, so we're going to leave the candle there for now. I'm probably going to come back and put one more coat of that white on there, but I'm going to leave it for now because I need it to get good and dry. Okay, I think our candle looks beautiful. I've gone in and transferred in some lines for my twigs. I'm going to be adding another one over here, but I want to wait till we get our leaf done. So let's zoom in. We're going to start working on the leaf now. I want to put some washes of color on this. I don't know how well it's going to show up because I did get my leaf a little bit dark here. So I'm going to start with some olive green. And I'm going to load for a float, but I'm going to have extra water in my brush to keep that nice and thin float. And then we'll just go in here and pick some places on this leaf that we want to put some of this color. And we will have to apply the colors probably 2 or 3 times to get them to pop, because they are just going to fade right down in there because we're using some transparent colors. So I just want to put this in a couple of places, just very loosely block it in. But it's watery, so don't get solid coverage here. You're not going to be happy if you do that. Let's add a little bit of cad red in here. So again, work it into your brush till it's nice and sheer. You've got water in your brush and paint, and you're working them together. And need a little bit more paint. I'm not sure this color is going to show up very well on this dark green, but we'll give it a shot. Not too much, so I think I'm going to go to Tangelo Orange because I don't think that's going to show up a whole lot. I'll go ahead and leave that spot red, but I'm going to move on to some Tangelo Orange here. And just kind of pity pat that in and put it where you kind of want it. And then we'll add some cadmium yellow in here. If I don't like this, I'm just going to base coat back over my leaf and repaint it. So I like to try some fun things here. That yellow's mixing with my red there. Alright, we've got quite a mess there on our leaf, so we're going to have to go in and repeat everything. So I'm going to repeat the ones that are dry, which is the olive green, using a little bit more paint this time, a little less water. I'm going to try that red again. Tangelo Orange. The second time around I'm not using very much water, so and then my cad yellow here, which I put here. Try and get some of this to show up over here. Do the tip. I'll have to repeat that on the tip to get it a little bit brighter. I think all the colors need to be brighter. I think once we get our shading on this leaf, it's going to look pretty awesome, but for now, it's not looking so awesome. Alright, just come back in here and Add more color. I really want these colors to end up popping on here. Remove any excess water from your brush when you're adding these next layers on, because the water is going to keep it thin down. And to me, the orange and the green are looking the same. I mean, the yellow and the green are looking same to me. Maybe they're just too close together, I don't know. Okay, I've added some vein lines in here. So now I want to I'm going to float some Hauser dark green at the base of my leaf, which is going to end up removing all of those lines that I just drew in there. So I'll have to come back in and redraw them if I can't tell where they're at. Go around your grapes carefully. We want it dark down through here. Okay, I'm going to have to repeat that, so I'm going to let it dry, and then I'm going to let it dry, I'm going to repeat it, and then I'm going to put my lines back in. Okay, we are going to create our vein lines. I'm going to mix, I'm using an 8 flat brush here. We're going to mix Hauser dark green and Payne's gray. Maybe 2 Hauser dark greens and 1 Payne's gray. Mix it together for a float. And we're going to create our vein here. I'm going to touch the brush to my paper towel to remove a little bit of the paint. We're going to go up to this vein and then go right next to it. And then we'll come on this side of it, create a very narrow vein there along the center and next to this one. And we'll go next to this, down the center. I'm going to mix some more paint on my brush. Went down this center. We'll go next to this one, and then along beside it and down. So we're creating our individual veins by doing this. So I'll come on this side of it. I'll start back here and I'll go along that center vein. Then this vein that comes out, I'm going to go along beside it. Soften that out with the water edge of my brush. Then go right next to it. We're just going to do this all the way on each leaf. On each section of the leaf. We're just putting a little bit of paint down. So when we're done, we've got our center vein there. All we have to do is highlight it, and we've got our individual veins, and it's going to just make the leaf look so awesome. Mix a little bit more here, get some water on my brush so I can move it. And then we'll come over here and do this one next to it. I'm going to take the water edge and remove a little bit of that. Come out. Next to it, next to it. I'm up on the very tippy toe of this brush because these are tight areas. And we don't want our veins to be ginormous, so don't make the areas really wide. I mean, you're coming like almost right next to what you just painted. And I'll come in and erase my veins here in a minute, and you'll really be able to see that. Okay, let me do this one. Finish up on this side. We don't want any hard lines on our ends out there, so take your water edge of your brush and soften those out. Okay, let me get my eraser. Erase my chalk lines here. And then we can see all those beautiful veins that we put in there. And we'll highlight them. I think we're going to use some olive green here. I'm going to mix a little bit of Hauser dark green with it, just so it's not quite so bright. Let's see how this looks. Nope, a little more olive green there. A tiny bit. Might have to go just straight olive green here. I can't seem to see my paint. And you can leave them if you want to. You don't have to even add this extra highlight in here if you don't want to. I try to put it in the center. I don't go all the way back there, and I don't go all the way to the tip. Probably won't show up right there because that's olive green already. So I might get a little bit of white. And that's just a fun way to make a fall leaf. Now, if you don't like putting all these colors on here, what you can do is shade it with the Hauser dark green, and then repeat your shading with the Hauser dark green and the Payne's gray mixed. 2 Hauser dark green, 1 Payne's gray, and then highlight with just olive green. You could probably mix, since leaf green is in our base here, you could probably mix olive green and leaf green together and get a very nice highlight, and then brighten it with just a little bit of olive green. So that's just a second option. Let me wide angle out. You can kind of see the leaf there. And how fun is that leaf? I think I need to do a little shading on the leaf here. And these valleys maybe. Those are dark green and Payne's gray. Just a little mix of it. You can be the judge of it. How dark you make it right here. And put a little bit of Payne's gray down in here. Really darken that valley area. We're going to move on to our grapes now. And I think I might touch up here with my Payne's Gray right here next to my leaf. That's one of the good things about having a solid color background. You can clean up your little boo-boos very, very easily. Okay, let's work on our grapes here. Now, you're going to want a small flat brush or a small angle brush. Whatever you like to float with is what I want you to use. I'm using an 8 flat. I'm going to load it for a float, and we're going to begin on our grapes here. Okay, so we're going to do all of the left sides of our grapes. I'm starting out with Purple Pizzazz. You're going to want to go where one grape lays over another, and all of the left edges. Try and keep your grapes shaped nicely. When we add our final highlights and stuff, we can definitely shape them up. But we want to try as we go to make sure that they stay, you know, a nice shape. And my paint is very thick, so I'm having to add a little bit more water than usual on here. I picked up some yellow on my brush from my paper towel when I touch my brush to my paper towel. So that one's got a little bit of yellow on it. And you can put whatever grapes you want on top. So, you know, if you don't want to follow how I have my lines, then be creative and change it up. Okay, so that is our first little layer for our grapes. And I think I'm going to take some Payne's Gray and shape that grape a little bit differently. Payne's Gray is not very opaque, so, you know, it took 2 coats in the background. Really, I could have done a third one to smooth it out a little bit better. But it's, I know it looks black, but it has a blue color to it. It's kind of a bluish black. Okay, before I add my next color for shading, I want to repeat this color because I want it to show up a little bit more. So I'm just going to repeat it a second time. looks better having that second layer on there. Okay, let's darken our shading with dioxazine purple, and this is a pretty transparent color, but it's going to add just a wonderful little pop on these grapes. So just go over the same places you did. You don't have to make this float as big. We're just kind of doing the edge. Oh, I forgot to go around that other side of this grape. This one's going to be, woo, a lot of paint. Mostly dark down in here. It's okay if you get color on the grape next to it where you don't want it, because when we come in and add our highlights, we're definitely going to be shaping these grapes better. I mean, you want to try and keep your shape as well as you can, but don't stress out about it if you kind of get it on another one. Okay, those are looking pretty good. I'm going to erase some graphite lines in here that I did not paint over. Anything that you didn't paint over should erase pretty easily. It's got paint on it, probably not going to come off, but if you use the pencil like I did up there on the leaves, if you paint over it, it disappears. So alright, that looks pretty good right there. Let's add some highlight on here. We're going to highlight, we're going to mix, I'm going to try mixing the wild berry, which was our base coat, and some white. I actually might mix light buttermilk with it because that might make a more toned down highlight for me. So I'm going to dip into my purple, my wild orchid, and into my light buttermilk and just blend them together. You can do wild orchid twice and light buttermilk once, or do equal amounts. Try one mix, and if you don't like it, then go for another one. I've got 2 orchids and 1 light buttermilk. This is where you want to try and shape your grapes a little bit more. I'm just going to brush mix, so if my values end up differing on each grape, I'm going to be okay with that because nothing in nature is perfect. This one's just got a little bit of a highlight there in the center. Oops. I'm using a flat brush, but this is where an angle brush might work out better for you, depending on what kind of brush that you're used to using and that you like to use. Mix in a little bit more for these last 3 grapes here. If you get too much paint, just touch your finger back on it and it will remove some of the paint. Alright, that's our first highlight. We're going to have to darken our shading, I can tell. So we're going to mix Dioxazine Purple and Payne's Gray together and darken all of these. Okay, so Dioxazine Purple and Payne's Gray, I'm just going to do an equal mix. I'll get some fresh paint out here. Oops, knocking paint over everywhere. So I'm just going to dip into each one time. Dip into purple, dip into blue, and blend them on my brush. Or Payne's Gray. I guess it's not really blue, it's Payne's Gray. You could probably just go in here and shade with some Payne's Gray, but we don't want these to blend down into the background too much. Be very light with this. I'm barely skimming the brush across there. Hope I've had you on camera. I did not look up and see if you were on the monitor, so you probably weren't and were probably yelling at me. Oh my God, woman, what are you doing? We cannot see it. We need to see it. Use that water edge of your brush. Smooth it out. You're barely tickling over these grapes, so I'm going to have to put a little bit more on this edge here. Okay, those are looking much better. So now we're going to brighten our highlight. I'm going to mix the wild berry or wild orchid and white. And I'm going to do 2 whites and 1 wild orchid. And I'm not going to put very much of this on our grapes. So this is where we're going to be a lot more selective about our highlight. Add a little bit more white to that. A little bit brighter. You'd probably like to be on camera, wouldn't you? That's what happens when I zoom in. I get you off camera. that nice shape on your grapes. Take the water edge and soften so you don't have hard lines on here. Those are looking pretty darn good, I think. Okay, I'm taking some Payne's Gray, and in these really dark areas here, I'm putting just straight Payne's Gray. It's going to give a little bit of some shadow look too, so I'm just using the very, very tip of my brush. Really determined which one of these is on top here. They're kind of so close next to each other, but I'm going to create a little shadow next to that one with this Payne's Gray. I just, in these, especially in these little V areas, or where one grape is definitely pushed up against another one. We want those areas to be pretty dark. This grape is so far behind those two. I have the tiniest bit of paint on my brush, just tucking little bits of color in. Wherever I feel like a really dark area is not quite dark enough. So that's looking pretty good. Alright, that was just with straight Payne's Gray, just tucking it in there. Alright, so now is where you get to have a lot of fun with your grapes. So I'm going to create a wash of dioxazine purple. It's going to be mostly water. Mostly water. Just tint some water. Touch my paper towel to get the excess out. Now you're just going to go in here and pick some grapes and put some of this color on some of the grapes. Just find the ones that you want to be more purpley. And those are the ones that I want you to do. Okay, then we're going to do the same thing with some Payne's Gray. Make a wash of it, and because Payne's Gray has blue in it, it's going to be perfect for these grapes, and we're going to create some really different color purple grapes here. You just go right over your highlight and everything. We haven't added our brightest highlight on here yet. I put a little bit more paint in the water because I didn't feel like it was showing up very well. I think I'm going to do the same thing with the dioxazine purple. Well, goodness, I just removed every bit of that, so I'll try that again. It was a little bit too much water. Didn't like the way it looked. with the dioxazine purple again. And then we're going to do some cad red on just a few. And cad red's a more opaque color, so you definitely want to make sure you've got plenty of water here. Put some red on some of them. The red you might want to keep a little bit more out of the highlight. Mop brush would be good here, which I always have on hand, but I have not used it one time on this project. It's kind of hard for you to see the shades of color that I have here. I don't like the highlight on that one. A little bit more paint in the mix here. You're definitely going to have to do them at least twice in order to see that wash, that color. I'm going to come in and add my brightest little highlight on here now, which is going to be white. This is very tight. It's not very much paint. Don't like it. I know like, so it comes off. Try that again. I'm so sorry if I keep getting you off camera. I'm going to have to wide angle out because there's just no way around this. I keep shoving this thing so far away from me. Tell which side my paint's on. My paint's dry, my brush is dry. Definitely gonna have to reshape this grape. Okay, those look pretty good. Put some Payne's Gray and shape up this one grape here. Ooh, flinging off the thing. Alright, and I think those grapes look pretty good. And you can glaze over them as many times as you want. You can't really see too much of the cad red. It's not a super bright red, so let's see. I don't have another red here that I'm going to use, well, but I probably might need to get another red out because I'm going to be doing berries up here, and I want them to be more red than any other color. So you can put greens on there. You can make your grapes green. I want that purple in there. Let's add a stem onto it. Alright, let's add some stems on these grapes. So we're going to need on our palette burnt umber, light buttermilk, and some Payne's Gray. Those are the colors we're going to use, or at least I'm planning on using. So our stem comes out over here, comes down into the grapes. We'll make it pretty substantial. Comes down through here. We'll probably add some green on here too. And we've got these thin ones that come way over here. Keep these extremely super crazy thin. Okay, I'm just going to wipe my brush off and go into my light buttermilk. This is going to help us define this a little bit. I'm going to get some of my leaf green and put on that, I think. Might mix it with some white. Back into my light buttermilk, lighten that green up a little bit. And let's add some Payne's Gray for a little bit of shading on here. Just along the bottom edge. Maybe where the stems come out a little bit. Buttermilk. Actually, I want burnt umber, so I'm going to mix burnt umber and light buttermilk together. So just kind of play around with these colors that we're using on the stem. And create some colors that you like. But just remember, super duper crazy thin here. Tiny bit of highlight on the top of this. So we can see that stem just a little bit better. I think that's going to finish off our grapes. Those look pretty good. Okay, let's start on our berry stems here. So I'm going to take some burnt umber and add a little bit of light buttermilk to it to get a lighter brown. So just mix it to a color that you like. There's no special recipe for it. And we're going to have a kind of fat stem there, and then go thinner as you come out. I'm using a 1 round brush, but you can use a detail liner to do this. Stay up on the tip of the bristles. And just get them all painted in. Going behind the leaf here. You have to have just a tiny bit of water in your paint. Just so it flows off of your brush nicely. Up on the very tiptoe of the brush. And then we've got one that's coming behind here. And then we have this one over here. It's fatter back here, obviously, because that's the end of the stem, and then just let it tiptoe of the brush. Okay, so that's just kind of got them base coated in there. I mean, you know, got them started there. I'm going to erase my graphite lines now. Anything that you didn't paint over, just erase. Take some of the Payne's Gray and touch up around this grape. Okay, so I've got it base coated in with that mix. That was the light buttermilk and burnt umber. Okay, so now we want to take some straight burnt umber here and put some of that. I'm just going to streak some of this. This is where you again can get a detail liner. I'm going to streak some of this through here and maybe out in some of these branches. Not a whole lot. We're just going to darken this, you know, create some kind of wood look here. I need this to come down a little bit farther. straight burnt umber. I just want to touch some of this onto some of these limbs. Alright, we're going to do the same thing with some light buttermilk. Just streak some very tippy toe of the brush. I'm putting berries on here, so we really won't see a whole lot of this stem anyway. But for the places that we will see it, you never know where it's going to poke through, so we want to make sure that we get it looking as good as we can. Our last color we want to put on these stems is a little bit of Payne's Gray. This is going to kind of create a little bit of a shadow side. So we're just going to put it, not cover the whole thing. We just want to put it like on the shaded side, but I don't want it all the way to the edge because it's the same color as the background and then it will just fade away. So we're coming into the stem a little bit. So instead of going right next to where it lays on the background, I'm going to move it up just a little bit. And there we go. Got a little bit of that in there. Okay, we're going to add our berries on here, and we're going to use one of these Easy Dot tools. They come in the set, I believe. I've had mine for a long time. I think you can get them at the Artist Club. I will definitely find out for sure and be sure that is in the packet. And if you're watching on my YouTube channel, it will be in the link below. So I'm going to use the yellow one because it's got bigger points. You see they each have different points and they're numbered 1 through 4. And this one makes the teeny tiny little bitty dots. And then this one starts out a little bit bigger and makes great big huge dots. So we are going to start with the number 3 on here. They're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. And the number 3 on the yellow one. And we're going to dot, these are going to be our bigger dots, and these are going to be down lower on our branch, and I'm using Scarlet is the color I'm using. And I'm just going to put some of these bigger ones down low, and the more you dot with it, the smaller the berries will be, obviously. And then I'm going to come back with a different size. Okay, I'm going to go down to the next size, the number 3, number 2, where am I at? Number 2. Oops. You need to do this with fresh paint too, because if it's not fresh paint, you're not going to get good little dots here. And we're going to come back and add some highlights on them. Okay, so I think that branch is pretty full. I like the way it looks. So I'm going to continue on up here to this one. I like that you can get all these different size dots. You know, you can just keep going. This is so much fun. And it's so fast. What's going to take the longest with these is letting them dry. So there we've got those two done. So let's go down here and finish this one. And if you want to start out with smaller dots, but you want to stay with the same size, then just before you come to your piece, tap onto your palette paper, and you can make them smaller when you go to your surface. They'll already be smaller. You won't make any big ones. Okay, I think that's probably enough on that one. I need one more there. Those look really good. So now we have to let those dry completely before we can do any highlighting on them. But these are such handy tools to have, so I highly recommend that you get some. So while that's drying, I think, no, I'm just going to let it dry because I'm afraid I'll lay my arm across it to go and do the lettering. Alright, they're not quite dry, but dry enough that I can put a highlight on here. So I'm just going to add some little dots of cadmium yellow. And I'm not going to do every one, I'm just going to again, detail liner, small round. Highlight as many or as few as you want. Try not to make them ginormous like I just made that one. And the paint's still wet under it, so I can't remove it. Goodness. Just about filled that one completely with yellow. You didn't want to do that. I love this design, how it's turning out. So much fun. just gotta let the berries get dry. Okay, I've mixed some of the scarlet with some white. I should have gotten some fresh paint out here. And I just want to come in here and put a couple of lighter berries on here. I'm not going to highlight these at all. A little bit more white, I think. And you could add some of the cad red ones in here. That one's ginormous and very bright. So I'm going to take that one off. Oh, that was not good. I'm just going to have to take them all off of there now, the ones that I just put on. Alright, I'm going to try that again. I might take the red. I can see where I put those so I can go back in and put them in. So I got my cad red out. Let me get some fresh light buttermilk out and see about mixing that. Mostly red, not very much light buttermilk. So I just took my cad red and mixed just a tiny little bit of light buttermilk in it. And it needs to have a little bit more. I don't want them to be pink, but I also don't want them to be the same, to look the same color. I think my paint pile's big enough. Okay, that's putting just a few lighter ones in there. They're still a little bit too pinky for me. So just play around with your paint and find some colors that you like. And I'm not going to put too many of these in here. Just need a little lightening up. Oh, see that one? Must be too close to the color of the Ooh, has a lot of paint there. There we go. Those are a little bit brighter now. You can see them. I think that's good enough. That's plenty of berries for that. Alright, berries need to be dry. Alright, the berries still need a little bit to dry, but I can work on these letters down here, so I'm going to base coat. I'm base coating these in with light buttermilk. I don't think I drew my lines in very straight. So just outline these big letters and then fill them in. And then we'll apply a second coat. And hopefully I have them straight, because I didn't draw my line all the way across where I was putting them, so. Okay, so we got fall down there. Up here, the welcome, we're going to paint it in. With. Okay, I have decided tentatively that my letters up here are going to be painted in with Wild Orchid, which is the base color we used on the grapes. So, just fill in. I'm going to try and not go over my graphite lines here so that I can come back and erase them. So I'm just going to paint inside those lines all the way across here, and then we're going to come back and do some fun stuff to the lettering so that it goes well with our design. So I'm going to finish filling in the letters off camera because it really is just a, you know, a monotonous thing, and we can move on to making them pretty and fun. Alright, I've decided how I'm going to do my lettering here. I went ahead and erased this line here because we really don't need it since we're a silhouette and a leaf silhouette. We can kind of tell that stuff's sitting right there, so we didn't need that. So down here on the word fall, I've base coated it in with the light buttermilk, 2 coats. Now I'm taking some leaf green and burnt umber and blending them together on my brush, make a dirty green color. And I'm just floating this along the lower part of these letters. About to there ought to be good. Some more here on my brush. Still going to do a drop shadow on these. And then the last one down here. I might come back and just darken this a little bit after it dries. Could come up a little bit farther. Okay, so that's fall. Now for the welcome, from the bottom up, so I'm going to turn it upside down. I'm taking dioxazine purple and a little bit of Payne's gray in there, mostly purple, but we'll have some gray in there. Now these are transparent colors, and when transparent colors are painted on, they're kind of fussy. So you have to go over this twice. So I'm going to just kind of flick it up here. I want the lower parts of these letters to be dark with this color, and then we'll come back with the light, or white is what we have on the top, and we'll be flicking that down. So I'll show you how to do that when we come to the white, but we're going to do the bottom of the letters, and we're not trying to really get opaque coverage here. We're just darkening the bottoms of these letters. Just all the way across. Won't take long for it to dry, but you do need to let these purples dry because they're finicky. And then the E. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry and repeat it. I'll show you what I'm going to do on the top here. We're going to take white, and this will have to be done twice as well. And we're just going to start here at the top and flick it down. Just kind of drag it down. And we don't have to fill in all of that purple behind it. We actually want to see some of that purple. So we're just going to do this all the way across, and then we'll come back and repeat it to brighten it. So you're just going to do it twice on all the letters. Fresh paint is going to work best for this. So when you let it dry, if you come back to your paint and it's not a nice fresh paint, then just put some new paint out so that you're not trying to fight with some paint that's already starting to dry. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to do 2 coats of both colors on everything. So even on the fall down here. So I'm going to get that done and I shall be back. Okay, so now we're going to outline all of the letters with Payne's Gray. Just on the left and underneath. So I'm using one round brush. I'm flattening it out. Here. A bit too much paint on my brush there. Okay. Okay, so there's fall. Do inside of the A here. There we go. Okay, so up here for welcome, we'll do the same thing on the left sides. So I'm not sure we're going to see this color very well. I think I might do a different color up here on the welcome. Okay, I've decided on a color here to add a shadow with, and this is Georgia Clay. So where this one ends, that one will end. So they end opposite of each other. And that will help you. And I push down harder with the brush in the fatter areas. Like coming down around here, that's a much fatter part of the letter. And you can paint your letters really, as long as they're colors within our palette. Whatever you decide to do, if you just want them to be a solid color, that's perfectly fine. If you have a stencil that you would like to stencil the letters on with, that's perfectly fine. I think this needs to go all the way down. Oops. A little bit too much paint there. Just take your time. Wide angle out, because I think this is going to be a done project now. Yes, I love it. It turned out beautiful. And then I'll varnish it and put it in my stand. Happy fall, or welcome fall. And then I can paint something else on the back and put it in my stand. So I love these plaques. These are going to be a great addition for you to have. Great gifts, because you can paint up, you know, all 4 seasons and plus more, and you know, give them as a gift. What a fun gift. I love how this turned out. I hope that you enjoyed it too. I hope that you paint it. And I can't wait to see what you do with it. And give me a thumbs up if you're watching on my YouTube channel. I just loved, I can't even talk. I just really loved painting this. You know, of course it's got fruit in it. If it had bling on it, it would be even better. But I don't generally put bling on my fruit. So I thank you all for painting with me and for watching my videos. And give me a thumbs up if you're watching my YouTube channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.